Censorship's an interesting issue. People accused of censorship often, they say, "Well, we're too little to count," or just point out that this is my private area, and they like to say, "This is like my living room. Hey, you can't expect to be in my living room." But of course, it's not a living room. The context we're talking about is something that is, semi-public in the sense that it's on private property and subject to private control for that reason. But it's like if you open a cafe and open your doors, then you are entering a public enterprise in some sense. And this is, the kind of thing that justifies having, rules against, um, discriminating in a place that is, public in that sense. If that was the issue, if you had to have total control over someone in order to censor them, then there really couldn't be censorship unless you killed a person. You can't totally stop them from going somewhere and saying something. The point is, you're restricting their speech for rhetorical purposes because rhetorically you're trying to make a point that what they're saying is so objectionable that it can't even be heard. And it really doesn't matter, the scale of it. It's still censorship, and it's still a little bit screwed up. I say a little bit because hey, I think people could censor their private spaces, including their cafes, and you can run your cafe a certain way. But I think you have to make a decision. Um, if you are going to censor, then you're taking responsibility for what people say, and then you share liability. If you censor comments but leave up comments where someone is threatening another person, then you're promoting that sort of comment by your endorsement. You too are saying it, and you are somewhat liable since it's in your space. On the other hand, if you just let the comments go, then you can't be held responsible. You are just providing a public space, and the people that make those statements are responsible for them. That's how I think it should work. Now, I also think it's important to have a better comment system in the case of comments, and software. The best software system I know of moderation. It's like, well, we moderate comments up, right? We moderate comments down. So the comment should have a score. And you should read the comments browsing at a certain threshold, so that if a comment has been rated down, you don't see it. But you can lower your threshold and you can see it. I am the kind of person that reads comments with that turned off. I don't want the community to make a decision to hide comments from me. Unless maybe I'm in a hurry or I go in the other direction and I'm in the mood to just see comments that were highly rated. There's reason to do that, but I want to be able to turn it on and off. And if you have a system like that too, then the people that are the regular viewers of a particular channel, in the case of YouTube, those people would be making the consensus decision about what to hide and what not to hide for the average viewer that's just browsing at the default level. And meanwhile, you can actually browse at whatever level you want. And, so more on, this in the context of YouTube comments. I mean, if you could turn comments off entirely, right? And then there's no issue. You just do not have a commentary box. You are doing a one-way video communication. You can turn off comments and video replies. But if you open up the comments, then you are providing a place for debate, and rhetorically, this is a place for dialogue. And then if you manipulate the dialogue, then you are, in fact, affecting other people's ability to communicate. I mean, the people in those comments are not just communicating to you, they're communicating to other commenters. I mean, it's the most obvious when someone blocks you and they still reply to you, and then commenters are talking about you and your points, and they haven't seen your side of it because they've only watched this guy's video. And yeah, I think it's basics of free speech to be able to reply to that kind of thing. And if you block it, then that is an act of censorship, and you're taking some responsibility. Whereas if the comments were just like voted down and someone like me could still see them by browsing at that level, or when there was a dispute, anybody could check, uh, then then that would be better. But I do think you have the right to go ahead and have this private manicured garden, but then you take responsibility for it. The theory is like, oh, you're just bitter because you've been blocked. Um, or I've been banned from websites before, and I complained about the censorship there. You're just bitter because you've been blocked. That doesn't really make sense, right? Because the theory is that I am just bitter. I'm complaining about censorship issues because I'm bitter about being censored. I mean, I'm not bitter. Uh, I'm talking about censorship. Maybe the fact that I was censored is part of my experiences and why I'm talking about this particular censorship issue. But on the other hand, I've talked about censorship issues before that I wasn't involved in. So I happen to have more firsthand knowledge about those that I am involved in. I mean, if I had not been subscribed to Inman Ham, uh, I probably would not know about. I wouldn't have been watching him. I wouldn't know about his policies. I wouldn't know that he wants to stand up for free speech while being a censor at the same time. So I happen to know that. So that's an opportunity to say that. And the issue is just about censorship and how this stuff works.